and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host, Ty Spiker Christensen. Annyeong. That's technically a quote from this. Annyeong.
I'm young.
No. The one true quote that I wanted to do was, "You make my world so much bigger, and I'm wondering if I do the same for you." We've got Jordan Christensen on the podcast.
my young.
We got Cameron Mickle on the podcast.
I didn't know that liking your husband would hurt this much.
Ooh. And we've got Colton Reed back on the podcast. Not since Ebbing, 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Mine was long, so I wrote it down on an index card.
Oh my gosh.
There's a word in Korean, inyan. It means providence or fate. I think it comes from Buddhism and reincarnation. It's an inyan if two strangers even walk by each other in the street and their clothes accidentally brush. It means there has been something.
I'm just curious, Colton. Have you been brushing against a lot of people now? Just like, oh,
yeah, trying to
spreading his yin yang around. I'm sure. May want to get yourself tested, folks, if you've been in the vicinity with Colton.
I can't deliver that line with the same power that Greta Lee does, but that's my favorite quote.
That is an interesting concept. I know I've seen the what could be in a lot of different films, but I'm interested to discuss that with you guys.
How does the conversation end? Doesn't she say it's like it's just a way for Koreans to
to seduce you?
Yeah, she says that like if people get married, it's because there's been 8,000 layers of inyan over 8,000 lifetimes. And he goes, "Do you really believe that?" And she goes, "Not really. It's just something Koreans say to seduce people."
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Bars.
Folks, today we are discussing past lives. What can I say about this movie?
I can do it.
It would be funny if this was like a romance with no context. That made me laugh because he's like, I didn't know I'd like.
So it's a 2023 film.
Thank you.
Directed by Celine Song. It's her feature length
debut.
Debut.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's also written by her. Stars Greta Lee, Tou, John Magaro, and then those are kind of the main headliners.
Is she married
so easy
or is she
saying
single?
those Korean names, is it, Cameron? Sorry.
Who? Greta Lee?
Or the
director? No, yeah, the director is married.
I messaged the husband, Ron.
No, well, it's based on a story where she was with her husband and then her high school or like a fling as a child, and she was like thought of it like, oh wow, this could use some exploring, and so then she was like, we needed a essentially create a story about this.
Now they have reverse polygamy. She's married 2 husbands.
Of course, you and Ty would take it that way. You guys.
No. Well, it's all the things Jordan was saying. I was going for more of the angle because I think Arthur is my favorite character in this whole movie. And you guys saw my review where it's like, hey, we can be in young with, but I really don't want you as a bro. All right.
He did get kind of excited when he was
I literally
that
thought,
means we're in
okay.
young.
The one quote I thought would be so funny is when he looks at him when he came to the apartment. I thought for a second of Dave Made a Maze, and he just looks at him and he goes, "Yeah, my wife." I thought that's what he's gonna say. My wife, man. I don't know why. That's literally. I was like that. There would be nothing funnier than that quote in that situation. Anyway, let's get into it, guys. Let's review this movie. This came out. You said it was 2021. This came out
23.
Oh, it was 23. Excuse me. Let me pull
nominated
it up
for Best Picture this year.
Yes, I saw how good the reviews were, and I actually messaged Jordan about it, not knowing anything about the movie, but just hearing it was a good, fresh take on what might have been romance films. And I found it interesting because, again, critically acclaimed PG-13 films. I know that's a weird thing to say, but like,
oh, was it really PG-13?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you only have subtitled 3 F-bombs, and I'm like, yeah, it's like they're speaking Korean. It's not like they even swore, so you can get the PG-13 rating. But then again, if there's no other material in it, I think you can get away with 3 F-bombs these days. Probably not. I don't know.
I think it's 3 now. Yeah.
Probably is 3. If you just sacrifice other things. But anyway, it's like a scale, folks. If you don't know the MPA rating system,
and the impact isn't as hard when you read it for some reason. I don't know why. At least not for me.
Well, even the way they were talking, it wasn't
Oh,
like a
out of
it
anger.
was
Yeah.
it was just like a flippant thing that they were talking about. But I guys, I really want to know your guys' take on this movie. And Cameron, I'm curious to know why you chose this movie. And
Yeah.
Colton, you have Colton on. Like,
Cameron,
this
tell
is
us.
your top 100 list now, or is this just a movie that you like? Will you ever watch again? So let's get into what was it like watching this movie for the first time, where you discovered it. What's it like rewatching it for the podcast now? So we'll start with you, Cameron. You chose this movie.
Yeah, Colton showed me this movie, and it kind of reminded me, the first time watching it, reminded me a lot of Manchester by the Sea. Just kind of had a lot of like unweighted shots, as well as just like a lot of like emotion heavy, but like never like, because that's what I love about Manchester by the Sea, as well as this, is I think a lot of movies look to satisfy that like emotional urge or whatever you have. Like you're like, oh, I really want to see them get together. I really want to see this. And I think I love how this just kind of leaves it to show like about real life, that it's like a lot of things might go like kind of what if, or it's like it might sound really cool on paper, like to have a super romanticized um like story, but at the same time, like just being in love is enough of a story.
I'm
And
surprised you
so
didn't compare it to 500 Days of Summer or
Whoa, that's
La
my
La Land.
comparison. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, those old comparisons have been made, and I know there might be things about it. Like mine is the literal like the plot twist, like introduction, like this is my husband. It's like, where did that freaking come from? Like,
Yeah.
hey, I think we should take a break from each other. I'm married now. It's like, okay, you just made the plot a lot more complicated. Thanks, Nora.
Cameron, if you really like this, you should finish the Before movies, the Before Sunset, Sunrise, and
Yeah,
Midnight.
that was the other series
This
I
is
was thinking of.
literally
Yeah.
the second movie in that series. So
Mhm.
yeah, I watched the video that was comparing the two as well.
Yeah,
Um,
but this is Korean, so much better.
they do
yeah,
make
and
good
so
films.
I was really impressed just on like first viewing, and then it made it into my top 100, and then reviewing it again and rewatching it, I was really interested to see how it would kind of fare, and how like the emotional weight of it
It
would kind
stay
of
the
fare.
same, move up or move down.
That's what I'm about to get to, Nugget.
I'm waiting.
Yes,
The anticipation's killing me.
I'm like mid speaking, and both of you guys, well, finish your review already.
Well, what'd you think?
And I was impressed at how I felt like it was like, I would say, equally as emotionally impactful. And if anything, I also saw different perspectives that I didn't see. Because I think first viewing, I was more like kind of swept off my feet by the romanticized relationship between the two. And then after watching it again, I just realized like, honestly, it's kind of like inappropriate, a lot of the actions that like he does with her.
Well,
I was like, I don't know. Yes, Jordan.
well, I was just gonna say too, what I found interesting on this viewing is like it kind of manipulated you by showing only their love story stuff.
Uh-huh.
Because you didn't get to see the last two. How many years was she married? You didn't get to see all those
7
years.
years.
7
Yeah.
years.
All you got to see
Yeah.
is her relationship with that guy. So it's like,
Yeah, well, and that's what I think is kind of cool also, because I think that's why for me, especially on the second viewing, it gave that perspective and that line of like, I didn't know liking your husband would hurt this much, because I think he saw himself as the protagonist of the story and said, I'm gonna go like essentially save the love of my life. And then I think he realized like, oh, like she may be like, or like what I think is the love of my life, but I may not be like the love of her life, you know? Like she has somebody else in her life, and like essentially he would be ruining what she already has, like in the happy situation that she's in. So I was really impressed with rewatching it and how well it is. And it's largely due to the fact of like a lot of like being made super well.
yeah,
Mhm.
Nathan Fielder, I feel like did an amazing episode on this kind of idea with that old man. Remember, he brought to his love of his life. He like built it up in
Oh,
his head.
his Bill Gates impersonator, and he went to like
Yeah,
find his lost fling. Yeah,
his lost love.
that's
Yeah.
interesting that you bring that up. Yeah, because I just finished The Curse. We got to talk about that after. So let's get into it. Colton. What was it like watching this movie for the first time and rewatching it for the podcast?
Well, I hope that you guys have already said everything you want to about this movie, because I'm gonna talk about it for 4 hours now.
Yes.
Please
Please
blow
do.
my socks off. Yeah.
I love this movie so freaking much. I first watched it It was, I think part of what made me love it so much when I first saw it was the experience of watching it. I was in like uh a locally owned, like very small theater in Las Vegas, that sort of was like themed after like 1920s, like uh like just very, very like early Hollywood. And it was really small theater, but every seat was full. And it was some movie that I had been really looking forward to watching for a while. And I think I knew probably as soon as, I would say it took me maybe 3 minutes for me to know, okay, this is gonna be a 10 out of 10 for me. And since then, I've seen this movie probably like 8 or 9 times. Um, I bought it the day that it was up for pre-sale on iTunes or on Apple TV because I wanted to watch it before everybody else could get it, and so I paid $25 so that I could pre-own it.
Well,
Uh,
and when you saw me, you're like, "Do you want to sign into my account and watch it?" I'm like, I'll get it once it's on sale."
yeah, exactly.
I loved how
Um,
excited you were.
Yeah. And every single time I see this movie, I learn something new about it. And there's like I notice something like, oh, that's an interesting thing I hadn't thought of that Celine Song did, or oh, that's a interestingly worded line, or something like that. Um and yeah, every single time I see this movie, I love it more. Um I guess I haven't even really said anything about why I love it, but it was
No, it's
something
fine.
that is so the
We'll get into two of your
experience,
favorites too. Yeah.
great. So 10 out of 10, 100
Cool.
out of 10.
Cool viewing experience though to watch it like at an aesthetically, like a different era time, because this movie does feel like a different time. Like I love subtle movies. So yeah, my experience watching this movie was like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air when everything's so on the nose. And there's still, and that's what my nitpicks will be. There's a few things that are still on the nose, but overall, a lot of it is very subtle. And I like that because I don't think there's a lot of subtlety anymore. I just think to make a big budget movie, and that's why I like indie films primarily, because I can't stand the force fed both narrative and then the insulting way that they treat us these days. It's just like, I guess it's too risky for a director to be like, yeah, figure it out on your own, or give you enough breadcrumbs to piece it together and leave a little ambiguity. There's still a few good working directors that will do that. But anyway, just watching this was a breath of fresh air from all the other junk that I've been consuming. So this is a welcome surprise. And I like this movie. I like it. I did think of a lot of jokes to say about it, but only because it's more of a appreciation, not necessarily mocking or thinking that it was too sappy. I rather enjoyed the movie. So how about you, Jordan? Who was like watching it for the first time?
Yeah, really good. I had it on my bucket list the second I saw the trailer. I was like, "Oh, this looks like a movie I'd really enjoy," and I did, and it was fun. I've seen it, once, and I didn't want to ever see it again because it's just like it's kind of depressing. But watched it again for the podcast because Cameron picked it. I don't know. I still have a hard time with, and I guess we'll get into this later, but it's weird. I like lean back and forth because while I think it's a very well made, intelligent film and I want more stuff like this, it's just, I wonder though, with like her mindset, if it's, and maybe it's because once you get married, you just see things differently, or it's just how I see things. It could be. But like her crying and stuff, I'm like, I guess
Yeah, Arthur lost at the end. Let's just be real. When
know.
she goes back to her husband and she just starts sobbing, I'm like, it's over. Like, I don't even care if she remains with you. She was broken up. But then again, I'm like, maybe I'm reading
See,
too much into one crying
I totally
emotional.
disagree.
Yeah,
I
because
totally disagree.
I would love to pick that apart too with you, Cameron, because I think there's a case to be made for both. But it did make me laugh because I was like, oh, it's
And
like you're Arthur.
but I just wonder if it's
That would
like,
suck.
is it her? I just feel like too many people kind of live in this fantasy world of like what a relationship is. And it's like, but once you're in it and you're with somebody, it's like, I mean, there's going to be just as many, if not more problems with that next person. So I don't know. When I see somebody like,
Jordan's upset that she thinks the grass might be greener.
she kind of acted like it by the end because it was like,
I mean,
Totally disagree.
I
yeah,
also disagree.
yeah,
okay, no, and that's great. I'm excited to hear your guys' thoughts. I don't want to hijack this pod. I was just I had a hard time with that ending. So
Jordan thinks she's a floosy. Running around. Jordan doesn't agree with Sung. No, I'm actually curious to hear about that because I think I get what you're alluding to, Jordan. It can be almost uncomfortable because I agree. Like, so it's interesting that the movie started. Okay, so let's get into
I'm
like
just
two of our
saying, Ty,
favorite
would your
things.
wife be
Yeah.
okay with you meeting up with some?
No, see, and
Eh,
this is the funny. I was going to talk to you
My
guys
wife
about
would
that. I'd be
never in a
like,
million
does anyone
years be
have
okay
any
with it.
experience like this? Yeah, I would love to hear your stories that are closest to this. And I remember thinking like Arthur's a bigger man than I am because I would be like, stop this right now. I have no idea what you're saying, and you're just sitting right there, and I'm getting cucked right
Well,
before my eyes.
I
Like,
guess if it's like a
yeah.
childhood friend, then I'd be like, all right, yeah, definitely. But if it's like there was something
No, but
there,
even then, like she admitted to him, like,
oh, that's
yeah,
right.
he's here just
He's
to see me. Like,
mm,
I mean, there's no other way to read that. It's like, even as impactful as a childhood friend could be, it's like I would be uncomfortable with that.
mm.
But I am interested to hear your guys' thoughts on whether or not there's any credence to the idea of like soulmates, because I think doctrinally, as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we don't believe in that because you can get married to any number of people. But where does foreordination come from? Where does the idea that, oh, I feel like we've known each other before this life and maybe after this life, like,
Yeah,
Well,
that's
and
because we
there's,
believe that. We
it's just
believe that when
something
we get
people
married,
say.
we'll be married, yeah,
It's just
in
something people
eternity.
say.
I know, but she
Yeah,
kind of acted like there is such thing as the one, because I feel like some people get it in their
yeah.
head, like I have to find that perfect somebody, and it's like you could be happy with many different people. So
I think that's kind of what it doesn't to me. Greta Lee's character was saying kind of what you just said, Jordan. Not that there's the one, but that like
This is
just
the life
before they
she
leave.
chose.
What?
Just that this is the life she chose.
but
Yeah.
she
So it
still
doesn't
sets it up
matter.
like this is the fantasy guy, and then I'm just here and I'm stuck with you. Because how she worded it is like, well, I
That is
mean, it just
not
no, but
what
she
I
did. She
heard.
worded it like exactly. I'm kind of like I'm here with
That's
you
what he
because
said. His insecurities is he brought on all of his
he did.
insecurities,
Yes, I
threw them
agree
on the
with that.
table, and was like, it was like, oh well, you're not gonna run away with this guy, which is totally understandable. But she
Yeah.
did not respond as if like, oh well, my life's boring and like I'm just stuck with you. Like she was making it clear to him the exact message that you're trying to say. Like it doesn't matter that this whole story like sounds super
And,
cool.
and I agree with
matters
that.
is that I
I
chose you.
agreed with that up until she cried at the end. Then I'm like, okay, like
Okay,
And to be fair,
So
I see what
sometimes
you're
when your
saying,
wife
Jordan.
is crying in the moment, or your girlfriend or your significant other is crying in the moment, it seems like the world is ending. But then, like after a good cry, they're usually much better. That was just all the emotional weight of the last hour and 48
that's true.
minutes unleashing. So I agree, because I remember thinking, if that's the way to end your movie, she's sobbing. I'm like,
Well,
Arthur
but her
lost.
stares at him,
But
Cameron, I mean, say a lot too. Like you don't have
oh
to be
yeah,
saying
dude,
words.
the
Her
2 minutes where they
body language
stood
says a
there,
million more
yes.
words than her
Oh my gosh.
actual
Well,
words.
the 2 minutes where they're waiting for the Uber, I'm like, they are fetching going to kiss. Like,
I thought
holy
that too. I
smokes.
was like, holy
Like
fudge.
there was so much tension there, and I was
Well,
like,
and
what's gonna
her like
happen?
the whole like their hands were basically like about to have a baby when they were like touching on the
about to
subway.
have a
Subway
baby. They weren't
mall.
even touching. Let's settle down. We're about to have
Yeah,
a baby.
They were so
yeah.
close.
But
No, Cameron,
earlier they
I'm with
set
Their
it
you.
up in
hands
the
are with
movie.
Anna, and Jordan's like they're having children.
But earlier in the movie, Cameron, she even said if you brush somebody, like that's Anyang or Inyang or how you say it. And
Onion.
and
It's in Yun.
so
Yeah,
right there, there was a reason she zoomed in on that shot. She
I'm
telling
aware of
us.
what the director was doing.
I'm just saying, it's some
I
powerful
did watch the
images.
film.
Okay.
Jordan, I see what you're saying. There's definitely
She's
some strong romantic tension. They're on the train together and they're staring into each other's eyes, and then
yeah.
again with Uber. And I think uh I personally I don't know. I've never been in this situation. I've never been married to a Korean immigrant who has been contacted by her childhood best friend and potential love of her life. We'll see.
well, and that's all we have for you, Colton. You can't deliberate anymore on this podcast. If that hasn't been your lived experience, you shouldn't be able to deliberate
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
feel.
I understand. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think
But you
if
can imagine, sympathize. What do you feel? I guess. Yeah. What would you
yeah,
feel?
I don't know. To me, it's I think it's all about like the comfort for both of them, knowing instead of wondering like they are sort of taking the stress off of what could have been. Did we miss out on what maybe was the happier version of our lives, instead putting that energy towards saying, like, what if we have a go at this in our next life? We're not inyan to each other, or we're not enough layers of inyan to each other in this life, but we can be maybe in our next life. And then that's like kind of the importance, I think, of their longing stares, and what makes it kind of like a very like a beautiful and very bright sadness to it, especially before the Uber comes. It's almost like they're longing and wishing that they were the versions of each other. They were in the different lives where they were something more to each other. Um, but also it's very hopeful because it takes the stress off of, oh man, I missed out on this. I didn't do the very best possible, maximally happy route in my life, but I can be satisfied with what I have now, and be comfortable knowing that the things that don't come around eventually in some other you know reincarnated state or some other lifetime, these things will come around.
That's
And
right.
so
You don't
I
get it right this time, you'll get it right the next life. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
exactly.
And not even it's we get it right.
Right.
It's do we get the possibility of experiencing this in
Mhm.
this life? No. That's okay because we'll have another opportunity. And it's almost like they're um yeah, it's like it's hope. It's very hopeful and sad at the same time. And I think Arthur wins because the amount of confidence and trust that you have to have in your
Yeah.
partner,
Yeah.
like that is, to me, that is the sign of a extremely healthy relationship, is that level of trust. Where it's like, yeah, go see your childhood crush, for a couple of days.
Sometimes you have to draw the line though, because
Yeah.
your significant other might
Go
say some
go
insane things.
go old crush and let me know. Do you still feel anything? No, I agree. And this is why sometimes movies like these can feel hopelessly romantic. And I feel like, Colton, the little bit that I know of you, you remind me of Cameron in the regard that I think Cameron is a little bit of a hopeless romantic, has like notions of like
Just read
like
any of his reviews about Rachel McAdams. Where's my wife?
yeah,
Where's my Rachel McAdams?
I don't even mean that any derogatory term. Like, I mean, you
No, yeah.
guys are like I'm kind of dull and I'm cynical and I'm old and I'm crotchety already. Got white hairs forming. I'm bad. And that's why, like, when I was in high school, 500 Days of Summer was my past lives. When I watched that movie, I was like, this perfectly explains, like, 1 minute you're in a relationship and then
You
she's off
betrayed us
married to
and
someone else, and you're
don't
like,
like it anymore.
what was that, Cameron?
She's a
You
traitor.
betrayed us and don't like it anymore.
Oh no, well, it's funny that you say that. Again, when I
Yeah, we did a
watched
whole
it,
pod
yeah,
about it. I heard
yeah.
everything
When
you
I
didn't
watched
like
it, it
about
was impactful to me. Now, when I watched Past Lives, I actually think this movie is more mature than 500 Days of Summer. But I
Yeah.
did think of moments in it where, like, a great example of it was literally Jordan mentioned there was no relationship between Arthur and Song that we get to see. But to be fair, like, there's very little that we see of Hae Sung's relationship
That's
with
true.
Nora. Like we do see like the long distance, but like it's interesting when he's like so upset that they're not going to be talking anymore, and you're like, it seemed pretty surface level because they haven't gotten like really deep yet. They were kind of still talking about like, oh, how's studies going? Like they were just kind of doing the day-to-day small talk stuff. But having personally been in a long distance relationship and did that for like several months, it's tough. And this movie accurately depicts that because you're like in different time zones. You're trying to figure out when to meet up. You have your life going on all around you, but you're just on a screen trying to like catch up and make small talk with a fling. And that's so this movie accurately captures that. So,
And well,
but I
literally
am
what you're
oh,
saying is what she was working
yeah.
out through her head as she was talking to her husband in the bedroom. Like they were talking about what you were just talking about, where she was like, well, he was young. I mean, and like we hardly knew each other, and like she's discussing this stuff. And so it's like now we're adults, we're completely different people.
Yeah. Yeah.
See,
Because
and
and
that's
again,
what
there's almost not much in the childhood realm that we see because we see them playing together for one day for one play date, but then they're like star-crossed lovers and they're say goodbye. And yeah, what might have been, because we're not given much. Like I think the director may have intentionally left it kind of a blank canvas so we could project ourselves
Yeah.
on any situation, because I think a lot of us have been in Arthur's position many times in our lives, and many times we're in Sung's predicament, and our Song's predicament, and sometimes we're in Hey Sung's predicament, right? So like it's, I think all of us in our lives have taken a turn at being one of these three, or had it happen to us, right? I mean, but yeah, I'd be a bigger flake than Arthur
Do,
was,
do
the
you want
bigger
to
man.
do you want to get into the favorite things?
Yeah, I want to hear your guys' favorite things. So let's start with you, Colton. Give you a chance to share two of your favorite things from this movie.
Okay, just two. Um,
Correct.
Yeah, we're just two.
yeah. I One thing that I noticed it the very first time I saw the movie, and every single time I see it, I notice another thing that makes me appreciate this even more, which is Celine Song's directing. It is so crazy to me that this is the first movie she ever directed. She was a playwright, and then she made this movie, and the her eye for cinematography is insane. Like all the shots of Teo Yu's character, Hae Sung, like through the reflections of a rainy, dramatic New York City day, but the shadows give you just enough like depth through the window where you can see him clearly, but not the surroundings, and using the very tight shots for the stress that Arthur feels, and very loose shots when Nora and Hae Sung are out exploring the east side of New York together. And she just, I think she has such a grasp on storytelling through uh through like just what we can see.
Mm.
And I it's so like, I don't know, it's just masterful directing. Like I don't know if you guys little like a little detail that I love is that Celine Song did not let the actor who played Arthur and the actor who played Hae Sung meet. They never met each other until they shot the scene where Arthur and Hae Sung see each other
Meet in
for
the
the first
apartment.
time.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I watched this interview, this like 40-minute interview that Greta Lee did, and she talked about this because she also helped write this with Celine Song. Um, and that first shot that they used is the one that made it into the movie of Hae Sung and Arthur meeting each other. And I just think like behind the camera, um, before the camera, like all of that, she is just so in control. And every time I see it, like there's another little uh cinematography or directing little nugget that I appreciate so much.
That's neat. I didn't know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there'd be power in that, right? Meeting your co-star for the first time, and you're like, ah, so this is the infamous oh boy crush, like or the old high school fling, or grade school fling. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
And then my second thing is I really love the sort of the way that it is structured differently than like most of the like I so it's something I've been learning about in one of my classes about Aristotle's like three act, this like the way he split up stories. And I love how this kind of fits into that, but it starts almost in the middle of the action with them in the bar, and then it cuts back to
Right.
like very like 12-year apart sequences of time. Um, and I love especially how there is no, classic antagonist. Not in the sense of like there's no villain. There's all these people that have different goals, but there's no person who's, the like Arthur says, the evil white American husband in this movie. And I just think it's so cool how Celine Song and Greta Lee can write um a story that kind of goes against the grain of so many of like the tropes and the very like classic and sometimes worn out thing, I guess, ideas that are consistent in a lot of storytelling. Um, and yeah, so those are the two things I love, and it makes me so unbelievably angry that this did not get nominated for best directing. Thank goodness it got Best Picture nomination and it got Best Screenplay, but Greta Lee did not get nominated for Best Actress, which makes me so angry, and it did not get nominated for Best Directing, which also makes me so angry. I needed to verbalize that, so there's no doubt. Anyways,
Love it. Thanks for sharing those thoughts. How about you, Cameron? What would you say two of your favorite things are?
Um, not to contradict you, Jordan, but actually my favorite scene is the final scene because I think
Mm.
because for me the movie's much more symbolic. I just think the reason that like the way it's set up is so kind of like you guys talked about it being a blank canvas. There's a lot of like self-casting onto like the situation, and that's why I think
Yeah.
it's so interesting. The entire interaction once they leave the apartment, they're all going left, essentially going back in time into their pasts, and then they kind of have that moment and they're like communicating, and then Hae Sung gets in a car to essentially return to the past forever, and then she essentially returns to the present, and
Oh, that's
and so for
interesting.
me that's why I think it's like really beautiful because, and that's why I think her crying is so beautiful because I think for me, Hae Sung represents, especially on the second viewing, he represents more than just like a potential love interest. I think it's kind of her other life. And I think it also talks about like maybe the difficulties of being an immigrant and like kind of having that like double life almost, where it's like for the first 10 to 12 years of my life, I was a different human being in a different country. And now like I essentially have to reinvent myself. Like that's, I think it's so interesting. They give themselves new names. And so it's
Mm.
like you're literally becoming a new person and essentially abandoning that old person. And so that's what I think it's interesting is it's so beautiful when she comes back to him and then sobs is because I think it's her like essentially like totally releasing and letting go of her past. And which I think is she's like essentially accepted. And I think because it's so hard to let go of something like that, that's why I think it's beautiful that she gets to share that moment with her husband. Cause it's like, no, yeah, like that, like, and that's why I also think like the cinematography, why it's always far away when it's Hae Sung and her, I think is largely because it's like it doesn't have a lot of life to it. Because it's like, oh, you love the idea and I love how it looks, but there's not a whole
Mm.
lot of like oomph to it. Whereas every single time she's in a scene with her husband, like even when they first meet, like it's much closer and much more intimate because you're like, oh,
Hmm.
there's actually a lot of weight to this instead of every single shot being like, oh, this looks really cool, but w- like I don't really like we're not moving like or progressing as a relationship a whole lot right here. Like it's like, oh, they're at a really cool spot in New York and like awesome. But it's like we're taking photos like that next to like the water, you know.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just a
don't even
whole
get me
lot of
started on this photo, dude. There's a scene where he's like visiting New York on his vacation. Yeah,
yeah.
kawaii. No, freaking the rain outside. He's eating like a meal all alone in this dimly lit hotel lobby. I was like, that is the most depressing image I've ever seen, dude. He's like on a vacation that he doesn't want to be on some hope that maybe he can whisk this girl away. Like he's still pining for a married woman. Like it almost felt as hopeless as like a Jim Halpert dating a Pam who's been getting engaged for 4 years, right, to Roy. And you're just like, ugh, like I mean, it just feels so heavy. I definitely
I
felt
don't
that.
think he was trying to whisk away a married woman. I don't think that's why he went to New York.
No, and he is a much, yeah, he's more gentlemanly than that. But again, it's like what I guess what was it then? Did he need just closure then? Because I still feel like his whole purpose, he laid it out, was to go see her. So what did he need? He needed her to let him go, I guess, or he needed to move on.
Well,
What
I
was his
honestly,
purpose?
I think that neither of them knew what like they needed or wanted from it. I think just because of how much unknown there was, they
Mm,
felt like they just need to explore what it was. It was like why do we still have this connection after 24 years of seeing each other? It's like
mm,
there's some weird reason why I still feel connected to you. And I think that's a large, and that's why I think she realizes like, oh, the biggest reason why, because I love how she keeps saying he's so Korean. I'm like, You're Korean." Like, and obviously she's talking about cultural differences and how he's very like traditional Korean, where it's like you got to make a lot of money and like this and that. But to me, I love that because that even shows further like the symbolism of she's now a different person. And so she doesn't see herself as a Korean. She's like, I'm Korean American. And and so it's like that's why every single time she interacts with him, she's like, oh, well, he's just something from the past, like more of an idea than an actual thing. And so that's like definitely my first favorite thing. And I think my second favorite thing is I love how I was worried there for a second. If they would have kissed, it would have totally ruined it. But I love,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah,
I just love kind of
that's what I guess that's what I was worried about. I really was scared. I was like, I don't want this to be a physical thing, but more ethereal in a way where
yeah.
it could
Well,
kind of keep
and
it
that's
keep
well,
it
and
kosher.
that's what like I think is really cool is because it kind of shows. Um, I love that there's emotional immaturity from every single person and emotional maturity from every single person. Like, and I just feel like that's what makes it very real is because like there's multiple times where you could be like, yeah, that's kind of inappropriate of him like asking like a married woman like what do you think we could have been, like especially right in front of the husband, but at the same
Mm.
time like there's times where the husband's like insecurities get a hold of him and he expresses them to his wife, and then the wife like going to do things without him, and yet there's still moments where all three of them show emotional maturity. And so that's why I just feel like it makes it very real, because it's like in a story we love to have kind of like a flawed character who like makes majority good decisions, but it's like a lot of the time decisions that we make, especially regarding relationships, aren't right or wrong. Like it all depends on your perspectives, because you could argue that like from Haesung's, like if you're one of Haesung's buddies, you could hate Arthur,
Yeah,
but it's like,
right.
and so it just all depends on whose
Or even
point of view
hate
you're coming from.
song
You're
because
leading him on,
they're
yeah.
like,
And so,
I love the friend calling him out. He's like, yeah, where are you going to America to go see your girl? And he's like, what are you talking about? He goes, why are you acting dumb, dude? I know you're gonna go see that girl you've been pining about for the last 23 years. Like,
yeah,
your friends are so good at calling you out. It's good to have
yeah.
friends like that
Well, and that's what I think is
knock
beautiful, is
those.
because I think it shows like how, like I agree with Colton. I don't think he ever went to try to swoop her off her feet, but I
Yeah,
think it's one like I think he went there with like the blissful idea that she would sweep him off his feet. And I think I
100%.
think I think both of them went into that potentially with maybe that idea. Like I think as far as either of them would be willing to go is like, if they swept me off my feet, I wouldn't stop them kind of idea. Which because I feel like they both recognize like we don't have a whole lot going on here, but like if you move forward, then I would potentially be open to that. And that's what I think is beautiful, is like that kind of recognition where it's like, oh, that's not real. And that's what I kind of talked about in my letterbox review on the second viewing, is I talked
Mm,
about how um like we all want the beautiful story, but like just love and loving somebody is like beautiful enough of a story, just because it's like you're putting aside a bunch of differences. Like if you think about them, it's like, oh, it's so cool. Two people born halfway across the world end up meeting at some convention. Like that's super romantic. But I love how it's told in such a dull way that you're like, oh wow, it's so boring. Like you just met and they liked similar things. It's like, but isn't that what love is? It's like it's just like happen chance of, it reminds me of, that's what reminds me of 500 Days of Summer, where she's like,
mm.
what if I didn't go to that coffee shop?
Yeah,
And like I didn't ask me what I was reading. So it's like
right.
it's things like that where it's like there is no rule that needs to make it so romantic or romanticized. It's like
I
just the
thought that was
fact of
interesting. I
interaction and
I
falling
like
in
your
love is
observation, Cameron. I like talking about these kinds of movies because yeah, it's deeper on closer inspection, thinking about, no relation. I mean, I think it's possible. Like I just watched 6 seasons or 7 seasons of Better Call Saul, where I'm like, these are two wonderful people, but they're not good for each other, right? And this is an example where you what would solve this problem? Why don't and they could that'd be great,
That's
you
what I
have
said.
Hey
I said
Son.
reverse
Yeah,
polygamy.
polygamy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
well,
just
see,
no, no.
and Ty,
But I don't even. I mean, all yeah, not just. I want
so I,
to.
the thing that why I think it's beautiful is because I think if you look at
Mm,
any story, like I think there's a beauty to it, because it's like you could look at your marriage tie and just be like, oh well, it's not that like romantic. All you did was just meet because you like went to the same high school, or like you went to
mhm.
like similar area and you went to the same church. It's like that's it. But then it's like you look at another perspective. It's like we dated through high school. We both like went on trips like around the world, and then eventually like we still crossed paths again, and then like sparks flew. And so it's like
What's weird is like
depending
that described both. You just described both of those. Describe me and
Yeah.
Eddie. We were high school
on.
Oh,
flings, and then she went to Croatia, and I went to Chile, and
No, that's
like
what I'm
3
saying.
years
That's what I'm
apart, and then
saying.
yeah. I guess this
Because
is
I'm
how you
saying
frame it,
depending
right?
on
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, no, every single story, and like same with Jordan. It's like you could look at it as like, oh well, like it's so beautiful because they met like later down the road, and like what are the chances that they just missed each other? Like, there's so much
Well, we
onion
did
there.
just miss each other in one of our
That's what
wars.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know your guys' love life. There's the reason I'm saying what I'm saying.
You,
Oh my
Cameron, what's your
god.
love life? Do you have a love life that's about this?
No, I do not. And
No.
so, like, that's the thing. But like, you could also look at it as like, oh, well, you guys just met on a dating app. There's nothing romantic or special about it. And so it's like that's what I love about this is it kind of shows like the romance is how you frame it and how you look at it because there is no such thing as a non-romantic like love story or a perfectly romantic love story. It's all about how you look at it.
Except for our love story, Cameron.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
you
like
two
that.
are youngs.
Yeah, you two guys are in young with each
Young
other.
together.
Oh man, it's too funny. I love this. I love this discussion. You guys are getting me like wistfully hopeful. Is there anyone in your life, Colton? Cameron's got nobody. Is there anyone in your life right now, Colton?
No, just
Well, that's
just
you guys
Cameron.
keeping hopelessly romantic. Now I get why the two of you like this movie more than me and Jordan. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I will say one of my favorite quotes was
Offense taken.
kind of because
Offense
I'm
not taken. I
good.
agree
Yeah,
wholeheartedly with
no,
you.
good. The one thing that I would say, because I'm kind of tired of the multiverse, everyone is, because it takes down the stakes. But this one, the reincarnation angle of it, I like the quote where he goes, and the closure. This is the moment that was healing for me watching this whole movie. Was Hae Sung telling her, "It's like, what if this is a past life as well, and we're already something." Else to each other in our next life, and I liked that because that gave me hope, thinking in an eternal perspective. In our religion, we are hopelessly romantic. We believe in eternal love, so and an eternal marriage. So if you're married, you're sealed to your wife and partner for all time and all eternity. So in the next life, we'll continue to be married and continue to live on. And
I was
so
trying to baptize people on the pod.
that's right. No, but what I'm saying is, in this whole mentality of reincarnation, like they're going to be like, or their paths are going to keep crossing, right? They're going to keep being intertwined and interlinked. And they even mentioned like maybe I was a bird and you were a
Interlinked.
branch, like interlinked cells, interlinked.
What's it like to
This-
feel the touch of a
was that
woman?
Blade Runner? Yeah, interlinked cells. But anyway, the other thing
No,
it made me
and
think. Okay,
oh, go.
just one last
Go.
thing that made me think of was Everything Ever All at Once in the multiverse. Same explanation when you had I'm just gonna call him Data, is telling Michelle Yeoh like, hey, in another lifetime I would have been totally happy just doing taxes and laundry with you. So sweet, and it reminded me of that. And this movie had moments like that, but it was just very sweet, didn't feel forced. And yeah,
You dig the multiverse?
How
I dig the
dare you not
multiverse.
know?
You dig
How
it?
dare you not know Keihu Kwan's name?
Oh, I know his name is Data in The Goonies, and it's Short Round in Indiana Jones. I know his actor
And he won
name.
an Oscar
Raymond.
for that role. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Hey, that was a
No,
good
see,
line
but Ty,
delivery.
kind of going along what you're saying. I think that's what's
Mhm.
so beautiful is like it's that acceptance that he kind of does, and I think it's kind of like the blissful acceptance where it's like, I don't know if, like if we will be something in the future life, but I think that's why Jordan. That's why I disagree that like her crying is like her being like, oh well, I miss him, because I think it's that acceptance that it's like I accept that we're for sure not something in this life. And I think
I
that's kind of the hard decision where it's like they both come to terms like maybe we'll be something in a future or we were in a past, but it's like, but we're definitely not something to each other in this life.
Well, and I'm not trying to base it off only that cry. That's just one thing I can point to securely because it's like that's something I
Right.
can see. But even me in my own head, I'm like, well, Ty brought it up as well. Like, yes, sometimes they just need a good cry, and
Yeah.
I get that. Like,
And in my faith, I don't want my wife crying and thinking in her next life she's gonna marry someone other than me. So I get it, right?
but
I mean, like, I
it
don't want my wife being like, oh, I'm stuck with him for now, but my next life I'm definitely gonna choose
it
you.
actually
You're
has
like, oh,
it has everything
I'm
to do
right
with
here.
what you were saying earlier, Cameron, which was the fact that they kept it so open book. Like, I don't know where this is gonna go. I want to see if there's anything here. And that is the most dangerous thing that you could have said and that they can do. And that's where I think they went wrong. And I think that's why I have a
Yeah,
hard time
yo,
loving this movie.
our own grandfather was passing love notes to his mother's
Lover.
love
Or no,
interest.
I guess it wasn't because they weren't both lovers. It was just she loved him. And
Yeah.
she believed he
Our
was
own
the one.
grandfather, rest in peace, passed away this last year. Great man. His mother had asked him and tasked him with the chore of delivering love letters to a man that she thought was her soulmate that she wasn't married to.
Yeah.
A lot of issues, start up a lot of controversy, which is one of the reasons why grandfather never served a mission. But again, it's weird stuff when you start talking about this stuff, because it's like, where does it all factor in? It's hard to quantify and
And-
cut the line, because I agree. Like, hopeless romantic in me is like, this is a wonderful story about the idea of an eternal existence that you could have, that you'll have people that are meaningful in your life, and maybe even for a brief moment, but in the eternities you're like best friends. Like, I believe all that stuff.
And
But
that I actually, so a lot of the stuff Cameron was saying, I was like, okay, that is
Yeah.
why I appreciate it and actually think it's an
Yeah.
amazing film. But on the backhand side of it is what you were just mentioning about
Mhm.
some
Well,
people
see-
get it in their heads that there's like, oh, that's the true one, or that could be the true
Right.
one. If I feel a spark inside, then I'm gonna leave him and go for them because they're gonna be perfect. And it's like that's a completely toxic idea, because it's like you can find somebody and make them the one. Like you can,
Well,
it's
see,
just
that's what
And
I think
as
you're
I heard from my
misinterpreting is-
roommate once said, you can love somebody enough that could cover that gap, even if they didn't love you back. So,
famous
no.
last
you could love
words.
someone enough to cover that divide.
Ex-
Love you. I'm not going to say his name,
Well,
but I
see,
love you.
Jordan,
He's
but
my roommate.
um,
I firmly disagree
yeah,
with that, but it was funny.
that's why I think you're just misinterpreting what I'm saying. Like, I think
Yeah.
the reason that it is beautiful is because all three of them are flawed in their interactions.
No,
It's
and
because it is real. And that's what I think the biggest thing that you're struggling with is just because you feel like there's no one like no protagonist to root for.
no, it's not that. Actually, I love it. I told you I give it a high rating. I love this film, but the reason it's not going to end up on my top 100 is mainly because on the other side of it, I'm not talking about you and I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about other people that watch this and get it stuck in their head that yes, there's the one out there and they have this fantasy, because there are loco people out there that think
That's a
that
crazy reason to not have in your top 100.
I
Is
Jordan's
because
like, this is an
because
irresponsible
someone
movie.
else
People
might
that might watch
misinterpret.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan's like, someone might misinterpret the message and then they're
exactly.
delusional.
I
It's
no,
like,
I have a
that's
hard
great.
I have a hard time with, because especially if films, and I don't want films to be clear, but at the same time, it's like some touch on touchy subjects. Like I just recently watched The Last Temptation, and I was really worried about like people watching this and losing their faith, and not. It's just because it's like,
Is that the William Dafoe movie? Martin
yeah,
Scorsese?
yeah,
Last
and
Temptation of Christ. Yeah.
it's just like, because if you don't have like, it's just easy to kind of see it in a certain way. That's all. If you don't,
I totally
I agree
see what
that
you're
art
saying.
can be influential, and yes, everyone bears
Yeah.
responsibility of interpreting things, and you should be smart about that. And be
I just
wise.
think it's funny that
get
I
it.
just think it's funny that your personal rating is affected, like similar to like Joker. You were worried about other people revolting and rising up because of the movie. If you didn't, it's like if I didn't revolt and rise up, I don't care what other people interpret and how they interact.
Cameron,
with
don't
the
worry.
movie
I got
Joker.
plenty of movies that I would discourage Jordan from referring other people to. Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. What's his face from freaking A Clockwork Orange. Those movies, in a
Yeah.
way, glorifying stylized violence and bad
And
behavior. And I'm like,
gangs,
oh, don't watch that. And I'm like, because it could inspire youth to behave in a certain way. But I get it. Jordan just wanted to offer a word of
kids are
caution. If
dumb,
you're
and
married, make it work with your spouse. Don't give up just because a fling comes along and you're like, they must be my soulmate.
if
I
you're
get what you're saying,
emotionally
Jordan.
immature, then yes, I agree, Cameron. Like your view on this film is great. It's just it just worries me sometimes. Like
See, but I think it's funny that your worries are gonna drop it down in like the rating, even though it's like how you're interacting with the film and what it
Yeah.
is to you is so like beautiful. It's like, oh, I think it's perfect, and how it is for me, amazing. But it's like, but someone could, be inspired and like leave their spouse, and I'm like, okay,
exactly. So I
like
don't want to be accountable for that. That's why.
you don't want to be
Someone was like,
accountable because
this
they're
movie,
putting it in your
dude, I
top
would love to
100
see a
because
movie review.
we're-
This movie review that's like, hey, this movie encouraged me to leave my wife, and it's the
Yeah,
best
no,
decision I ever made. And you're
but think
like,
about it, like, and us talking about this on the podcast, like, what if people did listen to it and they're like, that's a good idea.
then they're for being that dumb and interpreting it
although
that way.
maybe
If
there's
they're
a
dumb enough, if they're
spouse
dumb
that's
enough
being
to
abused
get
and
the
they need to
message,
leave. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
if
maybe
they're
it
dumb
does
enough to get the
good. It's
message
more
that
good
the
than harm.
one is out there for me from this movie, and then they go leave their husband and spouse, they deserve to leave because they were like it blows my like that's I'm not gonna live my entire life to make sure that other people aren't gonna make like dumb mistakes from interpreting art.
Yeah, but you can. Okay, sorry.
Jordan, I see what you're saying. I think you and I are kindred spirits because I also worry like anytime I recommend a movie to people, like it's actually the worst when I watch what the only time I had a negative experience ever watching this movie was when I showed it to Cameron because I wasn't watching the movie. I was watching Cameron watch the movie. Um, and so I totally get what you're saying about like worrying about how other people are going to interpret it and feeling
Did you
like
watch it before or after Cameron was with Kelsey? Was it before it wasn't it?
I didn't even
uh
know him before I was divorced.
Oh, did you not really? I didn't know that.
I'd met him like once or twice.
Okay.
but we knew
So
each other
and
well
us
in the
being
premarital
roommates, you
existence.
know,
Mm.
implies that I'm not living with Kelsey.
Well, no, but I didn't know if you guys knew each other
No,
before that.
yeah, friend acquaintances before the hand, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we were best friends in past life. We
Yeah,
just didn't
yeah.
have,
You guys were
we just
in
didn't have
Young
the inyan
well
to
before,
meet
like
before.
8,000 in Young. Just
Exactly. But I totally get what you're saying. Like every time I've never seen The Clockwork Orange, but every time I like think of that movie, I think of the thing where they're
Yeah,
like
the I.
eyes open and
that's
uh
what it's like watching that movie.
that's right. Yeah, don't.
No,
Yeah.
Ty, Jared.
I watched the video. It still didn't change my opinion about it one bit. So
Jared just
yeah.
made a video
No,
about.
and it made me laugh because he's wrong. Because he's like, hey, it might inspire, like Stanley Kubrick, a masterful film director, could make you feel like you care about this guy. And I'm like, nope, didn't work on me. Nice try, Stanley Kubrick. You're a great movie director, but it didn't work on me. I didn't
Worked on
find him
me.
likable in the least
I
bit.
did.
So
Oh
anyway,
no, I hoped he was tormented for the rest of his life, bro.
that's right, dude. His stupid smile with thumbs up. Hey, I got deprogrammed. I'm like, you should still be deprogrammed. You shouldn't have agency.
wasn't,
And at
though.
the
By the
end, he
end,
acts out
remember-
again.
Yeah.
He should be executed.
Yes.
Anyone
Dude,
who
the key.
singing in the rain should be executed.
Amen,
Yeah.
Cameron.
anyways,
But,
Past Lives is a great movie.
oh, but it's not completely unrelated because in that movie, sorry, Clockwork Orange, again, the message that Kubrick gave is like, is it possible that the medium of film could be so like, did you know Socrates was worried that poetry could be used in such a way that would influence young minds of people to like go do bad behaviors? Like, we're thinking like, have you ever heard a poem so good that it changed your life or made you behave in a different way? Sounds ridiculous,
Maybe
but like
back in the day.
back in the day, that
Yeah,
type of
without
stimulation they
TV.
believed was. And then you watch movies that influence people. You watch people that watch American Psycho,
Back
for
when people
example, I
actually
mentioned earlier,
read.
and they watch Patrick Bateman and people like him unironically because they think he's someone to aspire to be. And it's like, no. The director was very clear, like, this is like a mockery of like what you shouldn't want to
Shouldn't
be.
not want to do. Yeah.
You should not want to be. And
Same
somehow
with
there's
Lou
still people out there
Bloom.
that
So many people are like, Lou Bloom's my hero. I'm like,
yeah,
so
from
Nightcrawler is not an inspirational pick.
yeah. See, they're like, oh, that top
But-
heroes of the
but
last
as-
year. Yeah.
But as the
Anti-heroes were
creator,
a huge thing.
I
Yeah.
mean, or somebody like recommending it, like I feel like a little bit of weight is put on you. Am I crazy here, or like I know it shouldn't be. Like people we would hope would be mature enough to interpret it how Cameron interprets things, but
That's the
not-
free agency, bro. You
I
can't
know,
you
but-
can't control that. But you're not
Yeah,
responsible.
dude. Then
for
you
that.
become the freaking totalitarian. Where we're like, we're gonna program bad behavior out of you, Jordan. So now
I
you're
think-
the scary end of it.
Yeah,
Jordan,
Jordan's,
I
it doesn't work.
agree
Both
with
ends
you.
are bad.
Clockwork Orange.
I agree with you a little bit, Jordan. I think as anybody who writes books or makes a movie or even like you're saying like recommends a movie bears a little bit of responsibility for the medium that they are creating or that they're sharing, which is because there's
Cameron's shaking his head no.
What?
Cameron was
keeps
shaking his head no.
He's like, no.
There's a very clear difference between portraying something and like representing something in a movie and supporting it or you know what I mean?
Or
And
even
so-
doing the behavior, right? Like the whole problem with is like in a book format, you could explain the exploitation of children, but then if you go and create a movie and actually exploit children while doing it, it's like you've engaged in the behavior. Even if you're saying it's a bad thing, you did the behavior, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he was just there
exploited
documenting
young-
it. He wasn't telling kids to go do it.
no, it was so he filmed a bunch of
Oh, but I'm
Yeah.
saying they were already doing it. He just came and filmed it and said, "Look, this is bad." He didn't go and say, "Hey, start doing this on the camera."
No, they still had auditions for that movie, so he still had like perform.
alright.
Yeah, so so all that I get what you're saying though, and it's like, oh, they were already engaged in the behavior. It still doesn't matter, make a difference to me because again, like even Stephen. Here's a good example: Stephen King. In it, I'm going off a little tangent here, but it's like, okay, that book, what the freak was he thinking? But and in the movie, they were like, yeah, we're not going to do this scene
Yeah.
where you
Because-
have like this.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. Thanks for your weird book. But it's like in the book, you almost give him a pass because you're like, yeah, you put it on paper, and yeah, it shouldn't inspire. It's messed up. It's weird. But you're like, if you did it in a book, I guess we allow a pass because, again,
Well,
you
and
didn't
Cam-
exploit. Which is always, I always feel muddled when they do movies like Lolita and Taxi Driver, where you have Jodie Foster as an actual underage person. But you're like, oh, a very mature girl that's playing a young female. I'm like,
See, well,
yes, the world is a messed up place.
well, that's
but it's
exactly
crazy that you
why
get
I had a hard
actors in
time
this
with Red
situation.
Rocket. Like, I loved it, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I was like, and I tried to look up information about this, but I'm like, I don't think this girl is. So I just like got a sick feeling the whole movie. I'm just
They
saying,
do this a lot, like Licorice Pizza, same thing. Like a male actor versus the much older female. It's like
I
all
don't
these
know.
Licorice
the
Pizza is a
graduate.
great
Going back to
movie.
this is always
I
fun.
was with you until you slandered Paul Thomas Anderson, and now I'm
Slow
against
down.
you.
I didn't slander. I was mentioning a relationship. I like Licorice Pizza. In fact, There Will Be
Better.
Blood is like one of my favorites. So yeah, don't worries. I've seen Boogie
Better.
Nights. Don't care for that movie, but anyway, I've
Construct
seen
Love's better.
Overrated.
a lot of his stuff. Yeah, and I've seen most of all of his
Overrated.
films. So anyway, guys,
Yeah.
I
Cameron,
love
I
this.
just don't understand
Guys,
how you can shake your head no. Like, how is it not that you are responsible for your actions? Like, we literally are taught that.
No, you are, but
You
see, but
are.
you're saying that you're responsible for the actions of others, which is
Well,
insane.
No.
Because
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, us right now recording a podcast, we're recommending people to watch this movie. So when
Yeah.
people come on, they're like, "Ooh, I haven't seen that. I'm going to watch it first." And then what if like they decided not to listen to us? Suddenly we're responsible for showing them that movie. You understand? We recommended it.
This
We
is
are
so
literally doing
wonderful
it right
about
now.
This is
Ty, Jordan,
amazing.
whose
This is-
decision is it at the end of the day to watch the movie? It's not ours. It's theirs. So
Yeah,
no
but
matter
we're
how
still
influential
responsible
we
for
are-
posting this. So it's like,
I love that
Yes,
this is
okay,
coming
yeah,
out on
we are
past lives,
responsible.
Jordan. You should look at the catalog of movies that we've recommended on this
I
podcast.
know, I know.
And take a hard look in the mirror before you start passing
Yeah, I
judgment
love how
on
Jordan's
past
easier to
lives.
recommend Clockwork
Yes.
Orange than he
Yeah.
is Past Lives. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's recommend a movie about and it, like using songs that everyone knows and desensitizing them to where every single time they think of that, they think, oh, this is when he thinks that's fine. But then when it comes to a movie that's like, oh, they might like each other. It's like,
no, this could
"Whoa,
break up marriages. Is what I'm saying. But the
This
wrong
could
person
break up the
watches
movie
it.
partners,
Is it
okay?
bad?
This may have just done the movie podcast done. The Futro Hidden Movie Gems is done. We're over
See,
with,
that's the
folks.
thing, Jordan. We are responsible for our making of the podcast, but we're not responsible for how
Exactly.
people react. Yes,
That's what
of
I'm
making it, but not of how they react
Yeah,
to
Jordan,
it.
think
I
of all
know.
the people, all the listeners that still want us to review Indian films, and here we come out with a Korean film. They're probably thinking, hey, get back to RRR. You're not even reviewing it right.
I just want to say I think that both of you guys are right.
Don't
I
try to
think
people
there's-
please.
I know. No,
What
I'm
did
not
you say,
trying to-
Cameron?
Cameron,
don't try to
accused me
people
of
please.
people pleasing. I think you do bear some
Everyone's right.
No, you bear
Yeah,
responsibility.
Colton, your
for-
in young is flowing all over the place, all over
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
All right, yeah.
No, you bear responsibility as
Yeah.
the creator or as a person who shares or distributes a movie because of what is portrayed and what is represented and also what is like promoted, portraying versus promoting an idea. And that's why I think it's important, because you bear that little bit of responsibility for discourse. You can trust other adult people who are going to see this movie and not say, okay, I'm going to leave my wife for because of this movie. But also, like, that's why movies have ratings and stuff as well. Like, okay, we don't want to subject kids to the stuff in A Clockwork Orange, so we're not going to make it a movie that is as easily available for kids to watch. But then I also think it's important, like with a movie like Incendies, that's a very important, powerful story to tell, and it is portraying this horrible, horrible thing that happened to this family, not promoting it, but it's important, when you
See,
watch
but that's
it.
subjective. What if you're someone who is? That's why I struggle with the whole fact of saying
Cameron,
like that you're
Cameron, just let me
responsible.
finish.
Because
Let me finish.
what if I'm a refugee?
finish.
What if I'm a refugee and I think that that's like glorifying what it's like to be a refugee?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying is why it's so important to have discourse about it. That's I think.
So then how is that the director's like fault because I'm like being like, oh well,
I'm
you're
not
taking
saying-
advantage of my people.
No, Cameron, you're
Have
I'm
films so you can have discussions like this and enlighten your mind. I
exactly.
hear you,
You
Colton.
bear responsibility
okay.
to make
Free
sure when
speech,
you're
yeah.
making a movie
Yeah.
like Incendies or like Past Lives, you're not promoting something that is bad. You can portray it without
Mhm.
promoting it, and then
Mhm.
you
See,
put
but that's
that
so
into the
subjective.
Okay, never mind. I don't
No,
want to
no, but
say if
No,
I'm
yeah,
I
it-
like what you're saying, Colton.
Cameron.
It's the same thing with the book clubs.
I'm just saying
You
the
read,
difference between promoting and that's so subjective. Like, because that's what I'm saying is somebody in a different perspective could say you're promoting it, and then a person right next to them could say, oh, not promoting it at all. Like they're portraying it.
Yeah,
So
but
that's
what,
what I'm saying.
say somebody like really trusts your opinion, Cameron, because you're like, oh, you're a smart, intelligent person. Suddenly, now they're gonna listen to everything you say, and suddenly they come across things, maybe down a dark path that you've gone or something. Like
See, but then they're dumb enough to listen to every single thing I say and take it for like gospel. Like,
yeah, that's true. Well, that's the
that's not
problem.
my.
Is too many people don't believe in God, and they follow people like their prophets. So I'm just
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. But
listeners of
that's
the
not.
podcast, we don't have that problem with you guys. You guys are smart listeners and viewers. We know that you're
See, but that's
not.
I'm saying like that's not at all like it's not it's semi a false prophet's fault for spewing blasphemy, but it's also largely the fault of the dummies who follow.
100%. You have responsibility as a movie watcher to be able to logically critique the perspective of the filmmaker, but also the characters in it, and say, okay, I can see how they would make this movie, and it's important for them to portray, these refugees in incendies, and I can also see how they're not, promoting this guy doing this horrible thing, to his family member, and or to people in general. So you bear responsibility when you rent or otherwise watch a movie. You have a responsibility to take the message from it, that is going to change your life in a way for the better, and that is not the responsibility of the filmmaker. The filmmaker has responsibility when creating the film to do their best, and again, it is subjective, but they do their best to not promote something that is horrible, like in A Clockwork Orange or in Incendies, or as Jordan was bothered by Past Lives.
No,
But it's
see, Colton, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
yeah,
Like,
exactly that. I wasn't arguing against you.
no, I
That
No.
was that
no,
you
that's
were
what
Cam-
you're saying. You're like both of you are right.
yeah,
you-
because
you're saying the
you're
same thing.
Cameron. I wasn't, but I'm talking about us now. I'm separating stuff from the movie. Now I'm talking about us promoting it. You see what I'm saying? Now we're responsible because we are we're because we're
Responsible.
promoting it. So that's on us as
Hey.
creators, because I mean, you can call us creators, you can call
Yes,
us
All
just
right,
okay,
well,
yes. Our
let me clear this up.
responsibility-
All
our
ages should see
responsibility
this
that we're
movie.
promoting it, but it's not our
Everyone should see this.
responsibility how
Don't care how
people interpret
emotionally
it.
mature you are. If you're in a good relationship, bad
Yeah, but
relationship,
Cameron,
watch this
us
movie.
pr-
Leave your spouse. You're in
You're
young with
thirsty,
everybody.
guys.
Let's just all have
It is
hedonistic.
within our
I-
purview.
everyone-
that we are
Everyone just
promoting
get to
it.
each other.
I don't
in a
want to keep
giant
talking
pile up,
in,
and everyone
in
just
circles.
get
Let's just sorry, we can talk about this.
It is within our purview to promote it, and so that's our responsibility. It's whether or not we promote it, but how people react and respond is not our responsibility.
Purview?
I know,
Is that the
but
right use of purview?
and I appreciate your explanation of the film. I hope people take it that way. I don't know.
A word of caution,
Well, that's-
listeners. This has been the most divisive movies since It Comes at Night.
Comes at
Okay,
Night.
I want to say,
No, one shred of evidence.
no, let's shut it.
That was
That'll go down in
evidence you guys
infamy.
are bringing.
One thing I will say I loved a quote was when he tells his wife, he goes, you sleep talk in Korean. And she's like, oh, I didn't know that. And he goes, yeah,
I-
I feel like I'm worried that there's a deep part inside of you that I can't get to. And I thought that was really sweet. Like, I personally am Duolingo. I duolingual, if that's even
Bilingual.
I'm bilingual. Thank you. I'm not proficient in English. I guess it's easy to
I no,
say.
I was
am just-
surprised
I speak
because
Spanish and English, and I have a liver that switches in my brain, and I've heard it compared, and I don't know if this is true or not, so this might be misinformation, but I've heard that the same mechanisms that flip in someone's head for a it's not bipolar, but what's it called? Maybe dual personalities. If you're
Schizophrenic.
bilingual, if you speak a different language, you have the same brain mechanisms that fire off. So like when I speak Spanish, I try to be as much like myself, my true authentic self, but I'm speaking words that I've learned that try to convey a message, but there's cultural differences. There, like, I can't say like, oh, I'm sick of something, because that doesn't actually have a direct translation in Spanish. Although in Chile it did. You could say estoy chato of something, which would mean you're fed up with something, right? So you could learn, but you couldn't say like I'm sick of, because if you were saying you were sick, it would mean you're ill, and that wouldn't translate, because it'd be like, oh, you're ill. What are you ill? And you're like, well, I'm ill of the world. So let's go. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? It doesn't make sense, right? So it's kind of cool that this movie touches a little bit on that, because watching Arthur's relationship, because again, we see so little of it, like, it's very subtle, that he might feel like an outsider in a way. And he mentions that, he's the white villain husband, but you're like, he's like one of the sweetest characters in this movie. He's like one of the most mature characters in this movie. So I thought that was really cool. A subversion of expectations, if you will. Because again, I actually thought like at any minute he's going to lurch out and try to attack Hae Sung or whatever when he's in the apartment. There was so much tension there, but then it was instantly diffused, where you realize how, Cameron mentioned it, how emotionally mature everyone is. So anyway, I just thought that was very fun, and it subverted my expectations.
When she said, I was probably just speaking gibberish in my sleep. My wife talks in her sleep. It's all gibberish.
Cameron talks in his sleep, and it's
Cameron talks in his
terrifying.
It is.
So
Not as terrifying
warning.
as Hazel. Do you know she sleepwalks, Ty? No, and Ty, did we tell you about the time?
Laughs.
And Ty, she was in her bed. They came in the room, and she was curled in a ball, rocking back and forth, and she was laughing.
Okay, all right. I'm a little scared. I mean, she is a ginger. We know that she doesn't have a soul, but I mean, like, that's scary stuff. Let's and one last thing. Oh, the border agent, he was completely right in being suspect of both Song and Arthur, because they're both authors, and you should be very weary of a couple that's both claims to be authors. I'm just saying. So that border agent was completely right in being suspect of that couple. So good job, border agent. Keep doing your job. Protect us.
Keeping our country safe.
So, do we recommend it?
Would I recommend this film with a word of caution, because this movie might inspire you to
Yeah,
do a
don't-
mistake. Yeah.
Don't leave your spouse because of
Don't
this
leave
movie,
your
or leave your spouse. Do
Or
whatever the
leave your
hell you
spouse if
want.
they're the wrong person, right? And who could
Yeah.
tell? Like, you're in that. No, it's funny because they've given that caveat. It's like, if you're in a relationship of abuse, you need to leave. And somehow, like, to me, that's like a no-brainer. But it's like, tragically, there are abuse victims that, like, there's like a mental blockage. They can't seem to separate themselves from their abuser. It's so sad.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, I hope they would see a movie like this and be inspired to leave their abusive spouse, right? So I'm like, but I get the caveat.
You see how Cameron treats me when the pod is not on.
Yeah, you're his roommate. I do worry for you, Colton. We'll say prayers for you, all right, man? Oh,
Trust me,
folks.
Colton,
Hey,
you don't
Colton,
get half of what
we
they
end
get in
every
Call of Duty lobbies.
we end every movie podcast by sharing movies that we've seen lately and movies that we're looking forward to seeing. Do you have any movies that you've seen lately or things that you're looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to. I'm trying to watch all the all the movies that are nominated for a couple of different Oscar categories. But especially,
Let me save you the trouble. Half of them are no good.
yeah. Especially
Most of
Best
them are no
Picture,
good.
and the one I'm most excited for that I haven't seen yet is Anatomy of a Fall. The one I'm least excited for
I
is
told Jordan about
Metro.
that. Yes, we need to get that one. That looks
Yeah.
like Force Majeure, Jordan. It looks really, really good.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm looking
need to
forward
get
to
that
that, and I'm also really looking forward to Zone of Interest.
Ah,
I really
the
love
Nazi one, right?
Yeah, I really love movies like that.
'Cause
Just
he's
my
Jewish.
family. What?
I just said because you're Jewish.
Yeah, my family is ethnically
What?
Jewish.
Somehow Cameron says that and it makes it sound like an insult, and it's not. It's like, because you're a Jew.
I'm well aware that he makes it sound like an insult. But yeah, just I love movies like that. Just helps me just connect with my ancestry.
By watching Nazis.
Nope, that's the
Ah, you really-
Jeez.
Well, I thought that's what that film was.
no, it is, you're right. It
Okay.
is more about the perspective of the commandant of that camp. But yeah, like I love Life is Beautiful and just movies and stuff like that. So I'm really
I just watched Defiance. That was really good. I hadn't
Okay.
even
Did
heard
Cameron
that
tell you
story.
that he wept when he watched Schindler's List?
No.
Of
He
course, that is a
No,
That movie-
Ty's joking.
didn't
He didn't
cry.
cry at all. But he cried when Spider-Man died.
Oh my gosh. I was 16 when we
Yeah,
watched
but
this.
Spider-Man's
They
not
said-
Jewish, so
and
it's a
they
lot easier
prefaced
for
the
Cameron
movie.
to
They
relate.
preface the movie, if you don't cry, you don't have a soul.
And so Cameron
neat-
wanted to prove he
Jordan,
didn't have a
didn't you cry in
soul.
Pokemon movie 2000? So knock it off.
Oh yeah, no, I
exactly,
cried
Jordan.
everything.
Hey, the Pokemon movie made me cry growing up as well.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to say, so I'm excited to
Pikachu.
see those. I wanted to say before,
No, yeah, it was when Butterfree leaves and Pikachu is crying for Butterfree. That gets me more than
I
Ash
know,
turning to
I
stone.
know that exact moment.
Yes,
Um,
yes, everyone does that. Watch
I
the show.
just wanted to say I love this movie very much. I apologize for bringing so much contention accidentally onto the podcast. I bear a responsibility as the person who brought this conversation to you guys, and indirectly as the person who I guess maybe I was the source of all of you watching this movie. So if there's any family drama that comes back to because of this, it's my fault and I bear responsibility for that. So I apologize.
I've
And
absolutely loved this discussion. Oh, this has
yeah.
been wonderful. Cameron, hit us up with your list. You always have a big list.
Yeah, Cameron.
Yeah, well, because the semester's been so crazy, this is the worst month of watching movies in a long time. I only watched 16 movies this past month, and
Stop.
and
I like you
This
say
past month,
only.
yeah.
Like, it's
no.
still
usually
a
my goal,
lot.
usually my
Dude.
goal is to watch more movies than there are days in that month, which I've hit for like 4 months straight. But January I've been just like slaving away at school and work.
Well, now
Um,
do you have a list or direction that you're
and-
headed, or is it now just passion movies that you're following? Because
Yeah,
I'm
it's
curious
just-
because
it's
now
just-
you finished your IMDb list, right?
I've
Yeah.
taken a break because
Yeah.
man, I was starting to view it as homework. It was getting
Yeah,
bad after Amadeus and all those garbage films. Oh my gosh, bro!
Yeah,
Amadeus.
I love
Cameron's
hearing you
like,
say
I don't
that
think
'cause
I like
Amadeus
movies
is in my
anymore.
list. Yeah,
I'm like,
Amadeus is in
oh
my
my
list of
God.
like movies I have to see before I die, and I'm like dreading watching it. I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to
Dude.
watch it. Like
And you
after
know what's
Barry
the best
Lyndon,
part,
I'm like,
Ty?
I don't think I ever want to see a Powdered Wig again.
Ty, you know what's the best part too? Is the 2 hour 45-minute version is not available. Only the 3 hour director's cut is available. I'm like, I hope you die a slow and painful death, whoever directed this. So yeah, I haven't really watched anything except for I showed Colton Meet Your Earl and the Dying Girl, which he had seen half of it but hadn't seen the second half. And yeah, that movie is perfect to me. I think it's so beautiful. It's kind of a similar feel to this movie where I think just the emotions and interactions are super real in it. It's like I just love kind of how it shows like how to deal with loss and just kind of like the difficulties of day-to-day life. And then that's pretty much all I've seen. And then there's a couple things that I've been wanting to see, and some recommendations from people. One of my buddies recommended All Quiet on the Western Front, which has been recommended by like Ty and Grant.
Yes.
And like it's just one of those that I know I'll
I don't
enjoy,
recommend it.
because it's so. All right.
Jordan sucks. Yeah, don't listen to him.
You have the book? Dang.
And
Yeah,
then
dude.
I also
Mwah.
got recommended.
Oh, sorry. Are you
Below.
looking forward to seeing it, or did you finally see it, Cameron?
No, looking forward to.
Looking forward to. Yes, you
And
should.
then I also got recommended Blow by one of my buddies. It's like a movie about cocaine starring Johnny Depp. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
They did an
I heard it's
episode of Rick
crazy.
and Morty about that. Remember where he's like, I'm with Johnny Depp starting
I don't
cocaine.
remember.
Okay.
That's hilarious. And then also, I mean, Roadhouse is gonna be really fun with Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor, because I mean, like the first one was really funny. And then I'm also looking forward to.
I love the
one
first one.
one of my coworkers recommended What If. It's
Daniel
starring Daniel
Radcliffe,
Radcliffe,
Adam Driver. Yeah.
Driver.
That's a good.
Yeah.
That's right in the
It's
500
cute.
Days of Summer. Yeah.
Yeah,
the
kind of like
past lives
the
thing.
Might end up in
Yeah.
Cameron's top 100.
Yeah. Ooh,
Just
Um,
I
kidding,
would
it won't, it
recommend
won't.
after watching that, watch another Adam Driver film called While We're Young. It has Ben Stiller, Naomi Watts. That's a really good movie. It made me think of past lives.
Pretty good.
It's a good one.
Dude, I
Amanda
am not
Seyfried, I
a
think,
fan of
While We're
Ben
Young.
Stiller's movies, bro. He always makes me so uncomfortable. I've never watched a Ben
This-
Stiller movie without being
this-
uncomfortable. At
It's
least
funny that you
once.
say that.
You're
I
talking about
highly
Larry the
recom-
Cable Guy.
I haven't even seen that.
Oh, yeah, we watched it together. Oh, not Larry, just the Cable Guy, the Jim Carrey.
That's Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim
Yeah,
Carrey.
I
Matthew
know, I
Broderick.
didn't mean to say Larry. I meant the Cable Guy. No, but
I
Ben
know.
Stiller
Well,
directed that.
Oh, okay, yeah, that
Yeah.
checks.
Yeah.
Everything he directs is like there's at
Cameron.
least one scene where I'm like, who cleared this? Like, why is this in the
That's
movie?
Ben
Like,
Stiller,
it's
man. He
old
gets to
woman
push
trying
the.
to like. Same with Yes Man. Like, I'm like, I don't know if he directed that one, but it seems like something he would direct just because of that weird grandma.
No, he did
but,
Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, Tropic Thunder.
No, that
Which I
one's
was just
hilarious.
thinking maybe
The first 10
severed
minutes is
head.
hilarious.
I was trying to think of the scene that goes over the top in that
Oh,
one,
yeah.
Cameron, for you. Yeah. He's got the
No, but
director's
like
severed head.
something about Mary or whatever. Man, that movie was one of the worst.
Oh, you're talking
watches of
about movies
my
that he's both acted and
Starred in,
directed
yeah.
because he didn't direct that
yeah.
one.
Well,
No, I know.
he's almost like what you would call like the cringe humor guy, right? Like you're just like, oh, it's funny, but
Yeah,
you're
and
like,
I'm not.
oh,
It's
just
only funny
hurts to
in
watch.
in my opinion in a
Yeah.
comedy. I'm like,
He-
I'll let it slide
yeah.
at dodgeball, but like when I'm
Oh well, so
watching like
while we're young, just on the vein of What If is like kind of a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
While We're Young is like an
It's more of an
older
indie,
romantic comedy.
quirky.
Yeah, but it's a good movie. I remember really liking it, and I think you would like it. It's just in the vein
It's
of
not
these type of movies.
it's not like those other ones you're thinking
Yeah,
of, Cameron.
yeah, it's nothing. But
I sure
again,
hope
like,
not.
yeah, it's
Bro,
good though.
those
It's good.
honeymoon scenes of Something About Mary were some of the most scarring things I've ever seen in my life.
Wait, Cameron, what did you not like Walter Mitty?
No, Walter Mitty's easily his best.
Honeymoon, Cameron, you're talking about the breakup or the Heartbreak Kid.
The
The Heartbreak Kid, yeah.
Or
yeah.
wait, Along Came
Still,
Polly.
Something
See,
About
there's so
Mary
many
also
movies.
has
Yeah.
the weird scene with his
Oh
gosh,
yeah,
that's the worst thing ever. Like it seems
Super
like that I'm
relatable,
like,
right, Cameron?
yeah, I'm like
that's the Farley brothers. Is that how you pronounce their name?
Farley brothers.
Farley, the Dumb and Dumber
yeah, dude,
guys.
movies like that. I'm like, why is this scene in here? I'm like, this is literally something like a 13-year-old would be like. I'm like, why is there like? But anyway, yeah, that's
It was
Yeah.
no, it was his, and then she's like,
no,
oh
it,
yeah,
no, it
It
was
was
his
in
on
his-
his, and then she
Oh,
goes
yeah.
like,
She thought
oh,
it was okay. Yeah, no,
got
we all
that.
seen that movie, folks.
Horrific.
What else? Anything else? Because
No,
I
that's
got
it.
some recommendations that I've been watching. Can you believe it? I've watched a few things. So I finished
What?
Reacher season 2. I don't know if I mentioned that. Did I mention that last time?
Good. That's on my watch list.
Jack
Worth
Reacher's
a
good.
watch.
I like the first season better, but the second season's great. If you
I
like the
figured.
first season, just keep watching. Like it's so
Yeah,
good.
Jordan did not like
I
the
think
first
it's really well
season.
done.
I
You didn't
enjoyed
like the first one?
I couldn't get into it.
Oh, you can't get into it, dude. You guys
I
are missing
loved the
out.
first season.
Maybe I'll
Oh,
try to
good.
finish the first episode. It just seemed so. It kind of reminded me of Person of Interest. It like tried to be cool,
Yeah.
but it's kind of cheesy.
I
I
love
will
that.
say, like, I will say his character lends itself to kind of like a, like he acts like a bit of a bad boy, but it is still
He
like a
kind of
Boy
reminds me of
Scout,
the
and
guy
he
from
is.
Prison
He
Break.
is.
The guy, he's just like being cool. But
No,
I
I'll be
love
honest.
Prison Break,
Like,
though.
yeah, allow yourself to be enamored by him. Just fall in love with
Yeah.
him. You know,
See,
I've
Okay.
accepted.
yeah,
I'm gay
Jordan,
for
see,
him,
I
so
just see
it's
him
totally
as like an
works.
action figure
Yeah.
that you're playing with. Like it's literally
Yeah,
just like I know it sounds weird, but like literally you're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go on this mission and do all this stuff because like his size, shape, the way he looks is all just super unrealistic, even though he is a real human being, which is
I
crazy.
know. You're like, it's not even attainable, and you're like, he didn't look at him. He's a freaking
Yeah.
beefcake, dude.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he's literally an
highly
action
recommend
figure.
it, and he's got his own level of charm because when you think that Tom Cruise played the part in the other movie that they
That
made,
was good.
this is a really impressive TV show adaptation. Is all I'm saying. So I thought it was really well done, and there's enough like.
And Tom Cruise did it being 5'2". He managed to be menacing being
he's at least
5'2".
5'5".
Short Kings,
all right?
baby, Short Kings.
Okay. Okay. I also watched a Netflix 3-episode series called American Nightmare. This is like the real life story of Gone Girl, which actually the movie just came out like a month or two before this actually happened. So it's actually Gone Girl after Gone Girl existed. So people were comparing her story to Gone Girl. Very interesting because
Wait.
and it's
Gone
nice,
Girl
it's-
was based on a true story?
no, so it's funny that you say that. So people
Are we talking about the same
assumed-
Gone Girl? Like the
Yes,
like
the
the
David
Catholic?
Fincher. Yes, David Fincher. The
What
Gone
the
Girl story.
fudge?
So, but what's funny is so it's only 3 episodes long, so I recommend it because it's a nice short watch. It's a limited series or whatever. It's not like a running show or anything. Netflix original, and it basically tells the story that you might think is too far fetched. So watch it and find out. It's 3 episodes long, and it's nice how they told it, and it's very ends
What's
on
it
a very
called?
positive note. It's called American Nightmare. American Nightmare. It's 3
Please tell me
episodes
that
long.
please tell me that they have Ben Affleck smiling next to her missing poster.
Well, so it's funny. They definitely reference the movie and they allude to it because they're like the similarities are striking. and you're thinking this is a copycat, so watch it to find out what happens. I won't spoil it, but yeah, they allude to Gone Girl several times. I remember thinking, oh, I should watch Gone Girl again after watching
That's
this.
the scariest interpretation of life imitates art that I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, and it's weird again. That's why I preface it letting you know that this story happened after Gone Girl.
I think David
which
Fincher's
I think
responsible
is
for it.
interesting. Well, okay, so watch the 3-episode thing, and I'd love to talk to you guys about it. So anyway,
Not
so
responsible for some psycho chick who reenacted the shiz.
and then I watched a really funny stand-up comic called Dusty Slay. I don't know if you've seen this guy. He's kind of like a redneck. He's got long silky hair, big nerdy glasses, and a trucker hat. He's just hilarious. He's just constantly making me laugh, like laugh out loud. And it's just jokes per minute. Like, dude, he's just rapid fire, super funny. So highly recommend him. So Dusty Slay, if you haven't heard of, he's got a Netflix special out right now. And I think that's it. I said I had a lot of stuff, but yeah, it was just those 2 or 3 things. So
Hey,
that's it.
for your lifestyle, that's a lot.
Exactly. That's like monumental. And then things I'm looking forward to. I just thought it was really funny. It was just an observation, but like out of all the new releases this year that I saw that were like worthy or mentionable, like every single one of them belonged to like an intellectual property that already existed. It's a sequel, prequel, spin-off, or exist in the universe of something that already existed. And so it's nice to watch movies like Past Lives. And I think there's what's the movie, Dad? I just talked to Dad, Rich. He was saying that he's watching Argyle, I think is what it's called. It's like Henry Cavill, and it's a movie about a cat. And I was like, let me know if it's any good,
Yeah.
because it's an original movie. I gotta give him props, but I'm like, it looks
I've
super
heard
weird.
I've heard rough reviews so far.
I know. So but then again, like Rich is kind of like a garbage disposal. He just consumes things. And he's like, oh, it was great. And I'm like, it really wasn't. It really wasn't great. He gives a pass on a lot of movies that...
It looked a lot like the Lost City of Z, Jordan. When I watched the trailer, I'm like, this is the Lost City of Z.
What a funny pull, dude, because that is so funny that you pull.
It's one of those movies that's got 2 action or like 3 action stars,
That's
and then
so
it's like
funny.
just you
That
know
is
the
so
entire plot from the trailer.
I feel like I know
That's my
nothing.
opinion.
That is hilarious.
You're thinking of The Lost City, Cameron. The Lost City of Z is actually a pretty good film.
Okay, yeah.
Lost City
or whatever.
Z
The one
has
with
the Sons of
the one with-
Anarchy guy. Yeah, King
Yeah,
Arthur.
that's
He's like...
Cameron's thinking of The Lost City.
I'm talking about the Sandra Bullock,
Yeah,
Brad
Channing
Pitt.
Tatum.
Yeah, Channing Tatum. That movie was absolute
That was
garbage.
garbage.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I was gonna say that's why I was laughing at your poll, because it's like the Lost City Z.
Yeah,
like,
Lost City of Z.
I'm not sure why.
I just
It's
watched that
just
now.
such a random pick. Got it. Lost City. Got it. Okay, that makes more
Because
sense.
that's the
now.
same director as Ad Astra, and it's just another story about.
Oh, so another boring movie?
So, and one thing I'm looking forward to.
I'm
So, like I
kidding.
said, sticking to the original theme here, I want to watch the trilogy, the before Sunset, Sunrise, Sunset. I want to watch all those because I
Yeah.
haven't seen them.
I-
But I've had them on my list forever, and I have never watched them. But I
You
know
might
I'll
even
love
want to
them.
watch them with Maddie. I think they're tame enough,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
No, yeah.
They're
I
just
was telling Maddie I
dialogue
want to
heavy.
watch
The third
I'm gonna watch
one.
Past Lives with her as well. So
Oh.
I think she'd enjoy it.
Can't remember.
Right.
That's funny. I just watched this past month. I finished that trilogy, and then I
Oh, yeah?
I watched the Meet the Parents trilogy, and then I was on.
Yeah, what was with I just kept seeing you like the Meet the Fockers and Meet the Parents pop up. I'm like, what inspired this desire to watch?
Well, Tot had never seen it, and so she like wanted to watch, and then she
Meet the
liked it so
Parents
much.
is
She's
so
like,
funny,
I
yeah.
need to
First
see the
one's
next
great.
one, so we
Yeah.
watched them all.
The only scene I remember from the entire like trilogy is the lie detector scene.
Yeah.
What that was what I was like imagining going into like a marriage. I'm like, this is what a father-in-law is gonna be like.
That's
Right?
right, dude.
Robert
Let me
De
hook you-
Niro.
And
Dude, he's great.
and then I've been watching a bunch of
I
Martin
got
Scorsese's
nipples. Can you milk
films.
me, Greg?
Yeah, can you milk me? I've been scraping.
Just little Geppetto. So you said one scene,
Can you
Cameron.
milk me,
That's it,
Greg?
dude. It just keeps going.
Nail
You're just
there?
like, stop
I
talking.
actually can't. I laughed harder when he said, "You milked her, you sick son of a bee, didn't you?" I died. Oh my gosh. So I've been watching like movies that have been on my bucket list for ages, like The Age of Innocence by Martin Scorsese. It's like a worse version of Pride and Prejudice. I just don't care for that era.
Yikes.
That era.
Yeah.
People wearing corsets and powdered wigs. And,
Yeah.
no, I'm
yeah.
with you, dude. Just it's just everywhere.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and then after rewatching The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it's in my top 100. I'm sorry, Cameron. It's so good.
Rooney
Bro.
I am
Mara.
surprised that Cameron doesn't like it because I figured he would like it.
Yeah,
and
it has
I'm
everything
also
you
on
want
that
in a
board.
movie.
I
In the
don't care for
middle,
that movie
in the
very much.
middle,
Yeah.
like it, like what's it called? I would say 2/3 of
It-
that movie is a 10 out of 10, no questions.
Cameron,
Interesting.
if
Dude,
you
I
just
can't
skip
get, I
those,
can't get.
no, I know,
You can't skip 30 minutes of the movie.
No, you
and
can.
Say,
Easy,
10 out of
Cameron. The
10.
scenes are very short. Once you skip them, like they're nothing. I'm serious. I did it, and I
But
was
once
like,
you see
it's
them,
a
they
perfect
never
movie.
leave.
I know that's true. Yes, they're stuck in your head
I'm
forever.
like, oh my gosh, bro.
But
I'm like, I was even skipping while I was watching it for the first time, and still I saw things that I'm like, I can never get that out of my mind.
yeah,
I also
well,
thought it was just dumb at the. I just thought it was dumb at the end that she's like,
Wait,
she
wait,
doesn't
wait,
wanna be with
wait,
me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. No spoilers.
Like, she
yeah,
doesn't
for
want to be
sure.
with me. I'm like, of course not. Are you kidding me?
Like, what made you think that he was gonna be with you? Because he.
It's like this dude clearly does not like
and,
have morals.
and then I just bought because it finally came on sale Thanksgiving. It's an Eli Roth's newest movie. He finally went back to making cheap slasher
Campy
flicks.
slashers. Yeah.
I'm
Is
so
Thanksgiving
excited.
any good? Is it any good?
I don't know.
Or-
It has
Oh.
amazing reviews, but I think it's because apparently somebody says he just ripped off the premise of Scream. It's Scream.
Okay.
I'm excited.
You mean he
But I mean,
he
like,
ripped
if
off
it-
of Scary Movie? Because Scary Movie was actually the original.
Stop.
Now you sound like a Weird Al. I came up with the song first.
Yeah.
Dude, I love Scary Movie so much.
All right.
Everybody's got secrets, Ty.
Uh, I think that's everything, guys. This has been Future Hit Movie Gems. We love you so much. Leave us a comment. Tell us a movie you'd like us to review. And if
don't
it's
delete your
weird,
comments.
Don't delete your
Talking to you, R.
Be an intelligent consumer of media as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't blindly listen to us, guys. Don't be sheep. All right. We love you. Bye. Hey, in another life, our yin youngs are colliding and meshing together. Love you. Bye.
This.